Hey Daily Dosers, thanks for joining us today. My name is Kirk. I'm one of the pastors on staff here at the Vista campus. I am jumping in to the book of Acts chapter 12. The title of the chapter says this: Peter's miraculous escape from prison. So Peter's currently in prison. He's been imprisoned by Herod and he's about to go to trial. And in verse 5, it tells us that Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. And during this time, Peter's in prison. God sends an angel to help him escape, breaks him out of prison miraculously, leaves him out on the street. And then I'm going to pick up in verse 11 of chapter 12. It says, "Then Peter came to himself and said, 'Now I know without a doubt that the Lord sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and from everything the Jewish people were anticipating.'" So Peter has a firm grasp on what's going on here. Verse 12, "When this had dawned on him, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark, where many people had gathered and were still praying. Peter knocked at the outer entrance, and a servant girl named Rhoda came to answer the door. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed that she ran back without opening it and exclaimed, 'Peter's at the door.'" So kind of a cool story. The prayer's answered. Peter gets it. Rhoda gets it. Here's what I want to do. I don't want to focus on what God did. I don't want to focus on how Peter recognized it. I don't want to focus on the answer to the prayer. I want to focus on how the church responds to this prayer, because I think we would assume Rhoda runs back in, interrupts the people who are praying for Peter and says, "You can stop praying. The prayer's been answered." And you would expect the church to rejoice, celebrate, run back to the door, apologize to Peter for not answering it, hug him, that whole thing. Here's what actually happens. I'll go back to 14 so you get the dramatic effect. "When she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed that she ran back without opening and explained, 'Peter's at the door.' Verse 15, 'You're out of your mind,' they told her. But when she kept insisting it was so, they said, 'No, it must be his angel.'" In other words, they're earnestly praying for Peter to escape from prison. And then when that prayer is answered, how do they respond? They don't believe her. They tell her she's crazy. They say, if anything, he died, and this is his angel. And so they start off in such a great way. They start off earnestly, and then I think their faith is really revealed when they can't understand how God could miraculously save Peter. And to be frank with you, that's not a terribly uncommon situation for me. So I'm not crazy about public speaking, and whenever I speak at an event, I'm usually pretty nervous, and I usually pray pretty earnestly. And in the past, if I can be vulnerable, a lot of times I'd get off the stage, I'd wipe my brow, and I'd say, "Phew, I made it through. I prayed, but looks like I didn't really need to because I got through," when in actuality, it was probably God that helped me get through that situation. And maybe you have a similar situation where you threw something up, you started out earnestly, but then you didn't follow through on the back end. Maybe you got so excited, like Rhoda, that you missed that opportunity to open the door. Or maybe the prayer was answered, and instead of coming back to God and saying, "God, thanks so much for answering that prayer," you go, "Looks like I didn't need to pray about it anyways." I want to encourage you, I want to challenge you to understand that prayer sometimes is so much more for us than it is for God. We pray to a God who already knows what we need before we know what we need. And so many times that prayer is not the end of something, it's the beginning of something, that God desires us to come into relationship with him. And so I want to challenge you, I want to encourage you, don't just pray earnestly, but pray faithfully. When you pray for something, follow through on that. Whether that's in appreciation or whether that's in frustration, follow through on that prayer. "God, thank you for answering that. I saw what you did in my life." Or, "God, why haven't you answered this? What's going on? What am I missing?" Whatever it is, it draws us closer to God. When you pray, follow through. And when the answer comes, don't forget to open the door. God bless. We'll see you next time.